I'm Anand Hota from CBS again. Sorry. A major part of USA's research, innovation, economy system is most of the PhD scientists from all over the world goes to USA. And to any foreseeable future, I don't see that will happen for India. So what kind of a big structural change we need and we are planning that we can do our own innovation, research and economic development?
See, the people going to US has of course slowed down now, not like immediately after the Second World War. A lot of Germans and maybe later even after the Perestroika, the Russians. So for example, many people are coming back to Korea, to China. It happened with Japan. So we are not going to, that model is not going to work for us. Except people of NRIs, we must create situations of people of many of them. Am I correct? I got your number right? And a number of them are hopefully going to pursue PhD program. I was in Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, about 2 weeks back. They have started this BS program. The greatest challenge has been how to attract talented young people to careers in science. CBS is one example. That is, and what Professor Chitre told me with the first batch which is going out now, 17 of the 19 people are going to stay back in India. And hopefully, automatically going on to PhD. They had also an enormous number of, that's a 4-year course by the BS, but automatically they are hoping most of them will stay on for PhD. We have this INSPIRE program of the Department of Science and Technology, INSPIRE program. Automatically going on to PhD. They had also an enormous number of, that's a 4-year course by the BS, but automatically they are hoping most of them will stay on for PhD. We have this INSPIRE program of the Department of Science and Technology, INSPIRE program. I hope all your CBS students, Chitreji, all your CBS students or ISER students, they get these fellowships. This is a good fellowship, which is, that INSPIRE program can take you up to 2 years after PhD with a suitable placement. Maybe in between they allow you to go abroad and come back, I hope. And thereafter you are on your own. As I said, if you can't even take that risk, you are not fit for research. 2 years I am guaranteeing a job after. And then of course, in my opinion, as information flow on technology dries up from abroad, as India inevitably goes on the path to be a developed country, more and more PhDs or knowledge creators will be absorbed in the industry system. Right now they are being only taken in the academic system. Contribution to R&D in the academic system has to rise. It's only about less than 20%. Whereas in a country like Korea, it's more than 50%. It's going to happen. And we must be prepared for that, people in the university system.
Sir, really we enjoyed your lecture. I am Dr. Srivastava from Chemistry Department. At some point in time you said that our people constructed good instruments which was used for a prestigious project like, Higgs boson. And now why I remember this, because, last day of, day before yesterday, or yesterday also, we finalized lots of, equipments to be purchased in the university. And I feel like, everywhere in the country, even if you want to buy a good spectrophotometer like UV visible, you go and select party from abroad. Why is it not that government of India comes out with some kind of policy that some of the engineers and scientists put at a place, and the mandate given is like come out with some equipments. I gave example of UV visible spectrophotometer. Right from that to NMR and every instrument we find, no reliable company is there in our country where we can be dependent on. So what's your comment on this? Are any, planning is there? Because if you talk about the fund-wise, also a lot of money goes out of our country.
See, you are right. It's an absolutely important point what you have raised. In fact, INSA about 6-7 years back had a committee chaired by my colleague Dr. Sikka on how to develop the instruments industry in India, because all advanced analytical instruments, electron microscope, X-ray diffractometer, and NMR, they are all imported. And on the other hand, and also advanced diagnostic instruments in the medical side, all the medical instruments, they are all imported. Now, I myself, on the other hand, when we build a neutron diffractometer, computer controlled. It's a little more difficult to build than a computer controlled X-ray diffractometer. Then we tried to build an X-ray diffractometer under DST project and we tried to market it. But there are no buyers, they go by brand. People who got accustomed to Siemens or to Nonius or whatever it is, they go, or geol microscope, they go all go for that. So here is a paradox that we can build all the advanced instruments for controlling nuclear reactors. We can build the beamline instruments for synchrotron radiation sources or for research reactors or whatever is needed for satellite launch vehicles. But the standard instruments we are continuing to import. One of the arguments they say is the size. One of the, we discovered the Raman effect. Raman spectrometers were built by people abroad and we buy them. Because industry has to be ready for that. Industry. And also you must have a market. Industry will go for it if there is a market. And as my friend in the automotive sector said, today either you play in the global stage or you have no stage to play on, in all these cases. Not only you should be able to make the instruments, but you should be able to sell them globally. In the case of superconducting sextupole, decapole magnets, which I mentioned for the Large Hadron Collider, many of you know what is the Large Hadron Collider? How many of you know now? Everybody knows about the Large Hadron Collider. It is 100 meters below the ground in Geneva. In fact, 2/3 in France, 1/3 in Geneva. So the joke is you need visa from 2 countries to do experiments there. 26 kilometers. Protons go in opposite directions. Once in a while they are brought together and they collide. And now you read your E is equal to mc squared wrong side. You destroy mass, you produce energy, nuclear energy. You destroy energy, you produce mass. That is how they create particles. The heavier the energy of the colliding particles, the larger the mass of the particle that you have produced. So the colliding was at 4 tera electron volt. That's why they could put the Higgs boson 135 times the size of the proton. In that machine, in that 26 kilometers, is where our equipment went. So we can build the equipment. But the question is, how do we take the brand away from those who are established? Capability is there. Some extent market, some extent the brand. Or should we join forces with them, make joint ventures, and then go for it like the Chinese have done, Then give them the advantages of low-cost manufacturing. So, but what you have raised is an issue which I don't have an easy answer for that. 12:30. Up to 12:30 you are allowed.
No, they are allowed. It depends on you.
I can.
Good morning, sir. Good afternoon, sir. I am Ninad from Department of Chemistry. In your talk, you mentioned about that RUTAC program and how it helped for the to solve the water problems in Uttarakhand as well as Himachal Pradesh. I just want to ask you, can the same thing be done in the Maharashtra, because we are facing a lot of problems this year in Maharashtra, especially in the central part of the Maharashtra where there are many water problems. So can we apply the same RUTAC system here, and our brothers and sisters from Maharashtra in that rural areas can get the benefit of that ROTAC system?
See, this one is, this particular technique I described works only in the hilly areas. The reason is when it rains, the water runs away downhill and doesn't recharge the aquifers. Do you know even in Cherrapunji there is a water shortage off season? How many of you know? Cherrapunji, which has now become number 2 by the way. Number 1 is on some neighboring hill. There, this technique of rainwater harvesting, here some other techniques can be used. Here the problem is the groundwater begins to go down. And you must have catchment areas properly, which will lead to the recharge of the groundwater. And I know Bach scientists have done in some areas here, how to find out, lead them to the right place where instead of the water getting wasted, it has to be. But slightly different technique may have to be used.
Good afternoon, sir. So I'm from HJ College of Education. Sir, I mean, it's kudos to all the scientists who are working towards these new innovations. Sir, but somehow I feel they don't really cater to the Indian masses. In the sense, find these innovations are being made with big collaborations from international companies and projects and everything. But for example, let me put it this way, like solar cookers.
Sorry?
Solar cookers, solar
Solar
heaters. Yeah, harnessing this energy. But many of the masses still can't afford it and are not, because they are hand to mouth, nor are they aware of it. So being scientists and making these big things which are really good for the future. So but how does it make up for the present needs, immediate needs which is really required? Because only if we sustain today can we move to the future. So how do you implement these innovations and make people aware of them today so that they can use it even today, even though they are a work in progress? Like how do we create this awareness is my question.
See, this is a very, very important and fundamental issue, what you have raised. What I have found is innovations, say rural innovations or innovations of this kind, don't travel beyond 50 kilometers and then they stop. Only 3 kinds of innovations go very long distance. One is, suppose I design a new kind of reactor, if it's a good reactor. That will go very far because the cost of redevelopment of that technology is very high and technology transfer also takes place. Dwarf varieties of wheat which were developed go very far because the effect is spectacular. A farmer sees his next door fellow use dwarf varieties in the old days, in the 60s. And he uses the normal wheat. His thing is brought down by high winds, whereas the other fellow's thing has survived. So it goes like that. And some kinds of drinks, whose name I will not mention, go very far by the sheer power of advertisement. There is nothing there. But the actor recommends it, the player recommends it, cricketer recommends it, and so on, and it goes very far. None of these benefits are there for rural innovation or the kind of innovation we talked about, solar cooker or a biogas plant or a smokeless chula and all that. This doesn't happen. So what I have been recommending is, here technology transfer does not work. Here you try concept transfer followed by re-innovation. Concept transfer. What is the basic principle behind the whole thing? And we have examples of this. For example, my ROTAG is centered in all 8 IITs. I'm now trying to expand it. IIT Kharagpur redesigned the Ambar Charkha. They said all you want is a rotatory motion. Why do you use your hand? You can as well use your foot like in the Singer sewing machine. And foot doesn't get fatigued as fast as the hand. And now you have got both hands free, you can handle more spindles. But what is the central idea there, concept? Is instead of your hand, use your foot for rotatory motion. And this is, whether it is a potter or whether it is Ambar Charka, so this is the way one has to go, because here you try to do technology transfer of this one's design of solar cooker, which can work everywhere, the cost becomes unmanageable. So the way to go is to go through volunteer organizations, not only through government, go through self-help groups. Tell them this is the principle of the solar cooker. You need a concentrator. You focus it on a particular point, this basic thing, and let him re-innovate. And you saw a way Tamilian cooks is different from a way Uttarakhandi cooks. And people who has a nuclear reactor or an innovation of this type or rural innovation, evolutionary improvements are more acceptable than revolutionary ones. See, capital cost comes in. You tell him it's a good technology, but if I have to throw away all that, and when for some of those poor people, even 1,000, 2,000 rupees, quite a bit of money. So, but one should keep trying more of the, even if you are able to do this for a local neighborhood, that would be a great thing. Whether biogas or solar cooking or.
I have a related question. I'll take the opportunity to ask related question. Well, sir, you talked about thermodynamic equilibrium between the scientist and the industry. And scientists normally in India, in elite institutions, have thermodynamic equilibrium with the US scientists. And the industries are at lower, as well as rural technology development is much lower. So my question is that why we should have large number of people who should go down to their level, the scientists, and then work for rural technology. And I think Rudga is one of the very good examples, but we should have large number of such things. And also I think if we can go down to the industrial level and work with them, I think industrial development and the technology development and innovations happening in India, first development in India would happen faster than what's happening now. So I'd like to get your comments, please.
See, one fundamental point is that active scientists are not the best people for grassroots intervention. See, your karma is different. You have to teach here. You can't go and live in the village and do what. That is why we work. See, only man, why was Mahatma Gandhi so successful? He lived with the villages. And he lived like the villages. You and I cannot do that. You and I cannot do that. So that is why we work with, in our case, we work with volunteer organizations which are led by scientists or which have a very substantial scientific component. Very often these scientists, like in Uttarakhand, Anil Joshi, who heads this HESCO, Himalayan Environmental Studies and Conservation Organization, or Chandi Prasad Bhatt. All these people live there. They have very strong science background. And they know what is the demand of the people over there, number one. And secondly, those people trust them. Suppose I go dressed like this, go in my air-conditioned car and talk to the villagers. They will think the chap has come for a photo opportunity. Tomorrow he will open the Times of India and search is the picture there. They don't trust you. But if they tell, they trust. But they trust me, the leader. You see, my weakness is grassroots intervention. Your weakness also. But my strength is networking with all knowledge institutions in the country. So if it is demand driven, if between us we decide they need a solution which is based on technology, I can find out a CSR lab, university, IIT, I can find or one of my colleagues can find. So this is because, we do criticize extension work, but extension work is not so easy. And unless, you have a local leader, there is also a village mafia operates, People there who take care of, don't allow them to come up. So It's a very complex, complex issues, but India is changing, there is no question. And a very large number of people, see 8 IITs as I said, 8 IITs. And each one of them, just now, last one I inaugurated earlier this month in IIT Kanpur. That was the 8th one. And we had invited a large number of volunteer organizations to come and tell what is it that you want. And these are all people who know exactly what they want. Then we'll find them the partners. And even though they are located in IITs, it doesn't mean we use only IITs. We use, through IITs, we can reach any one of these organizations. And we are also trying to look at how to use the electronic connectivity. See, for example, if you look at the Department of Atomic Energy as a knowledge hub, not just BRC, and all the institutions within the Department of Atomic Energy as a knowledge hub, because they are all interconnected through the National Knowledge Network. We have done it for micro, small and medium enterprises, but we have done it also, now we are doing it for, or DA is doing it for rural area. Say they want to operate on a village cluster in Pendaharpur. So they have selected an academic institution, an engineering college in Pendaharpur. It is now connected to BAC through the National Knowledge Network. There is a large number of village clusters around. So any one of the villages, either directly or through a volunteer organization, approaches this Pendaharpur Engineering College. They come to BAC and then they go back and the solution is given. And the last mile connectivity, you can do through Wi-Fi. You need not do through optical fibers at the moment, but you can do. And they have run, BRC people have run virtual classrooms to villages, and there's a huge demand developing there. See, the best teachers in that whole area, if they can talk to all the village schools, or similarly for technology.